The incident at Kepler Station. The comm channel crackled with static before Commander Threx's voice filled the bridge of the distant horizon. His words dripped with contempt, translated through the universal interface with mechanical precision. Human vessel, you will power down your engines and submit to boarding. Kepler Station now falls under Zarkothian jurisdiction. Your presence here constitutes trespassing in Confederation space. Captain Elena Vasquez exchanged glances with her first officer, Lieutenant Park. The bridge of the merchant vessel was cramped, designed for efficiency rather than comfort. Through the viewport, Kepler Station hung against the starfield like a spinning wheel of light, a neutral trading hub that had served as a crossroads for 6 different species for over 30 years. Until 3 days ago, when the Zarkothian Confederation arrived with a battle group and declared it theirs. Commander Threx, Helena replied, keeping her voice level, Kepler Station is recognized as neutral territory under the Galactic Commerce Accords of 2247. We're carrying medical supplies and agricultural equipment bound for the Centauri colonies. We have 200 civilians aboard, including families. We request safe passage to continue our journey. The response was immediate and harsh. The accords are words on a screen, human. The Zarkothian Confederation recognizes only strength. You have no warships here, no fleet to enforce your accords. You will comply, or you will be fired upon. Through the tactical display, Helena could see the Zarkothian blockade, 17. Warships arranged in a wolf pack formation around Kepler Station. Each vessel bristled with weapons ports, their hulls adorned with the 3 Talon insignia of the Confederation. They were predators, and they knew it. I understand your position, Commander, Helena said carefully. I'm transmitting our cargo manifest now. As you can see, we're not a military threat. We're requesting 48 hours to arrange alternative passage for our civilians. You have 6 hours to evacuate your vessel. After that, the distant horizon becomes Confederation property, along with its cargo. Consider this compensation for your violation of our space. The channel went dead. Lieutenant Park leaned forward, his jaw tight. Captain, they can't just... They can, and they are. Elena pulled up the navigation charts. Send a priority quantum burst to Earth Fleet Command. Full situation report. Then start preparing evacuation procedures for the civilians. And us? Elena looked at the Zarkothian warships on the display. We wait, and we smile. Asterisk Earth's response. The diplomat smiles 22 light years away. In the sprawling complex of the Terran diplomatic corps on Earth, Ambassador Michael Chun read the report 3 times. Each reading made his smile grow wider, though anyone who knew him would recognize it as his most dangerous expression. Get me a quantum relay to Kepler Station, he said to his aide. Priority Alpha. 20 minutes later, his face appeared on every screen in the Zarkothian command vessel, Talon of Supremacy. Commander Threx looked up from his tactical console, his reptilian features twisting into what might have been amusement. Another human, Threx hissed. Come to beg for your merchant ship? Commander Threx. Chun's voice was warm, almost friendly. I'm Ambassador Michael Chun, representing the Terran Diplomatic Corps. I wanted to personally reach out about the situation at Kepler Station. There is no situation. There is only Confederation law. I see. Chun clasped his hands together, still smiling. Commander, I want to be very clear about something. Humanity values peaceful resolution above all else. We've spent 2 centuries building relationships across the galaxy based on mutual respect and cooperation. We don't want conflict. Then, you should teach your merchant captain to obey superior forces. Here's what I'd like to propose, Shin continued, as if Threx hadn't spoken. Release the distant horizon and restore Kepler Station's neutral status. In exchange, we'll overlook this unfortunate misunderstanding. No sanctions, no diplomatic complications, We can all move forward, as if this never happened. Threx leaned back in his command throne, a deep rumbling sound emerging from his throat's Zarkothian laughter. You offer me nothing while I hold all the advantages. Your diplomacy is as weak as your ships, human. Commander, I really must insist. You insist on nothing. Threx's claws scraped against his armrest. Where is your fleet, Ambassador? Where are your warships? You send merchants and diplomats because that is all you are, traitors, playing at being a civilization. The galaxy belongs to those strong enough to take it. Chun's smile never wavered. Commander, we would very much prefer a peaceful resolution. Then prepare to be disappointed. I see. Chun nodded slowly. Then I suppose we have nothing more to discuss. I genuinely hope you'll reconsider, Commander. For everyone's sake, the transmission ended. Threx stared at the blank screen, then turned to his second-in-command. Did that human just threaten me? I believe he was attempting to, Commander, though his delivery was peculiar. Threx's laughter echoed through the bridge. Humans, they smile and speak soft words because they have nothing else. Prepare boarding parties for the merchant vessel. We'll show these traitors what happens when they enter Confederation space. Asterisk the Zarkothian Perspective. The War Council convened aboard the Talon of Supremacy within the hour. 12 of the most decorated Zarkothian commanders gathered in the strategy chamber, their scales gleaming under harsh lighting, weapons ceremonially displayed on every wall. Commander Threx activated the holographic display, showing Kepler Station and the surrounding space. Brothers and sisters of the hunt, we stand at a pivotal moment. The humans have revealed their true nature: weak, passive, and ripe for exploitation. General Crix, scarred from a dozen campaigns, leaned forward. What do we know of human military capability? Very little, General, because there's very little to know. Threx pulled up intelligence reports. In the 70 years since humanity achieved faster-than-light travel, they've engaged in exactly 3 military actions. All were brief defensive operations against pirates or rogue elements. They've never initiated conflict, never claimed territory by force, never flexed any real military muscle. Their ships? Another commander asked. Merchant vessels, mostly. Some patrol craft. Nothing that suggests a serious military infrastructure. Threx displayed images of human vessels' sleek, efficient designs that looked more like cargo haulers than warships. They built a civilization on trade and negotiation. When threatened, they retreat behind lawyers and ambassadors. General Crix studied the data, his eyes narrowing. This seems incomplete. Because humans are incomplete warriors, Threx countered. They colonized 60 systems without a single war of conquest. They mediate disputes instead of crushing opposition. When the Krillian swarm threatened their colony on Proxima 3, they evacuated rather than fight. He gestured dismissively. They are sheep who learn to build spaceships. The War Council murmured agreement. The evidence seemed overwhelming. Humanity had every opportunity to establish itself as a military power, yet consistently chose dialogue over dominance. Then we are decided, General Crix declared. Kepler Station becomes our forward operating base. If the humans object, they can file a diplomatic protest. More laughter rippled through the chamber. And the merchant vessel? In 4 hours, we seize it as legitimate salvage. Its cargo will fund our expansion into this sector. Threx's eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. The humans sent a smiling ambassador. We'll send them back a message written in the language they clearly don't understand. Strength. What if they do have military assets? A younger commander ventured. Then they would have sent them instead of a diplomat, Threx replied. No, brothers and sisters. We've encountered another species that chose comfort over power. Kepler Station is ours. This sector will be ours. And the humans will smile and accept it, because that's all they know how to do. The War Council gave their approval with raised claws and roars of dominance. Strategic plans began immediately. Which systems to target next, how to leverage Kepler's position, where else humanity's neutral holdings might be vulnerable. None of them noticed the faint sensor readings at the edge of the system. Slight. Spatial distortions, easily dismissed as background radiation or gravitational anomalies. They didn't notice because they weren't looking. They had already decided humanity wasn't worth watching. Asterisk the quiet mobilization aboard Kepler station. Elena Vasquez was coordinating the civilian evacuation when the science officer's voice cut through the bridge chatter. Captain, I'm picking up something strange. Define strange ensign. Slipstream signatures. Multiple contacts bearing 270 range. Approximately 6 million kilometers and closing. Elena felt her pulse quicken. Zarkothian reinforcements? Negative, ma'am. The drive signatures are wrong. There. The ensign looked up, her eyes wide. They're Terran. The tactical display updated. First one contact, then 5, then 20. The numbers kept climbing. Elena watched in silence as the sensor net mapped. The arrivals, capital ships, cruisers, destroyers, support vessels, all emerging from faster-than-light travel with mathematical precision. Final count, the ensign whispered, 47 vessels. Terran Fifth Fleet. Through the viewport, Elena could see the distant flashes of slipstream exits, brief flares of exotic radiation as ships translated back into normal space. They arranged themselves in a formation that looked almost casual, yet every vessel had clear firing solutions on the Zarkothian blockade. The COM system chimed. A new transmission, broad spectrum, impossible to ignore. A woman's face appeared on every screen in the system human, dark-skinned, with close-cropped silver hair and eyes that had seen things civilian captains couldn't imagine. Behind her, the bridge of a warship hummed with quiet efficiency. This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo, commanding Terran Fifth Fleet. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. All vessels in the Kepler system are advised that this station has been designated as a protected, neutral zone under Terran authority. Any hostile actions against civilian vessels or station infrastructure will be considered an act of war. A pause. The Admiral's expression remained pleasant, almost friendly. Commander Threx of the Talon of Supremacy, you have 6 hours to withdraw. Your forces beyond the system boundary and restore Kepler Station's neutral status. After that deadline, we will assume you've chosen to escalate this situation. I really hope you won't make that choice. The transmission ended. Aboard the Talon of Supremacy, Threx stared at his tactical display. The Terran fleet had positioned itself with professional precision, not aggressive, not defensive, just present. Each ship maintained perfect formation spacing. Their weapons weren't charged, but their targeting systems were clearly active. Where did they come from? He demanded. Unknown, Commander. They appeared without warning. No advance scouts, no vanguard. The entire fleet just arrived. Threx counted the ships again. 47. Against his 17. The numbers were concerning, but not insurmountable. And more importantly, they still hadn't fired. Still hadn't made threats beyond words. Still smiling in their way. Maintain blockade positions, Threx ordered, and send for reinforcements. If the humans want to play games with fleet movements, we'll show them what a real military looks like. His second-in-command hesitated. Commander, perhaps we should. I said maintain positions. Threx's roar silenced the bridge. They came here to posture, to wave their ships around and hope we back down. But we know the truth about humans. They negotiate. They compromise. They smile. He turned back to the viewport, staring at the distant Terran fleet. They don't fight. In the command chair of the TSS Indomitable, Admiral Okonkwo reviewed the tactical situation. Her XO, approached quietly. "Admiral, the Zarkothians are requesting reinforcements. Intelligence suggests they're calling in at least 3 more battle groups." "Of course they are." Okonkwo's smile was small, almost sad. "They still don't understand. Should we call in additional fleets?" "Not yet, Commander. Let's see if they're smart enough to leave on their own. We gave them 6 hours." She checked her chronometer. "They've used 23 minutes. Plenty of time to make the right choice. And if they don't, Admiral?" Sarah Okonkwo looked out at the stars, at the Zarkothian warships holding their positions, at Kepler Station, where 200 human civilians waited for salvation. Her smile never wavered. Then we stopped smiling. The countdown 5 hours and 17 minutes had passed since Admiral Okonkwo's ultimatum. Aboard the Talon of Supremacy, Commander Threx watched as Zarkothian reinforcements emerged from Slipstream 83. Warships, including 2 dreadnoughts from the 3rd and 7th battle groups. The fleet commanders had responded to his call with enthusiasm, recognizing an opportunity to humble the upstart humans. The tactical display now showed 100 Zarkothian vessels against humanity's 47. "Overwhelming force, General." Crix observed via quantum relay, his image projected beside Threx's command throne. "The humans made a show of strength, but mathematics don't lie. We outnumber them more than 2 to 1. And they've done nothing," Threx added. 5 hours of silence. No aggressive maneuvers, no weapons charging, no ultimatums beyond that first message. He bared his teeth in satisfaction. They hoped we'd be intimidated. Now they're realizing their mistake. "What do you recommend, Commander?" Threx studied the Terran formation. The 47 ships maintained their positions with mechanical precision, almost. "Waiting. We send a message. Not to threaten, but to demonstrate reality. They need to understand that this sector belongs to the Confederation now. Compose your response. I'll authorize it." Threx activated the broad-spectrum channel, ensuring every ship in the system, including the humans, would receive his words. "Admiral Okonkwo of the Terran Fleet, your 6-hour deadline is noted. However, as you can observe, the tactical situation has shifted significantly. The Confederation now has 100 warships in this system. We appreciate your spirited attempt at intimidation, but basic mathematics suggests you withdraw your forces before this becomes embarrassing." He paused, letting the numbers sink in. "Kepler Station will remain under Confederation control. The merchant vessel Distant Horizon and its cargo are now Confederation property. You have 1 hour to remove your fleet from our space. After that, we will consider your presence an act of aggression and respond accordingly." Threx ended the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. "Time remaining until the human deadline?" 43 minutes, Commander." "Perfect. Let them watch their clock run out while they contemplate their options." He settled back into his throne. "Maintain full combat readiness, but hold fire unless provoked. I want them to realize they've been outmaneuvered without wasting ammunition." The response from Admiral Okonkwo came within 2 minutes. Her face appeared on the screen again, and Threx noted with satisfaction that her expression seemed unchanged, still calm, still that hint of a smile. He'd expected frustration, perhaps anger at being outgunned. Instead, she simply nodded. "Commander Threx, I acknowledge your message and your reinforcements. I appreciate you taking the time to respond." Her tone remained conversational, almost pleasant. "I notice you've brought quite a few ships. That's certainly impressive." She glanced at something off-screen, then back to the camera. "Our original deadline stands. 39 minutes remaining. I genuinely hope you'll use that time wisely." The transmission ended. Threx stared at the blank screen. Something in the human admiral's tone unsettled him. Not what she said, but what she didn't say. No threats about their superior numbers. No acknowledgement of the tactical disadvantage. Just, That smile. Commander, sensors are detecting spatial anomalies. Location? Multiple vectors. Bearing 090-180-270. The tactical officer's voice trailed off. Commander, we have slipstream signatures across all approach vectors. The tactical display exploded with new contacts. 20 ships appeared to the galactic north, and 50 to the east, and 100 to the south. The numbers cascaded across. The screen 200 vessels, then 300, then 500. Each wave of arrivals positioned themselves with the same mechanical precision as the original Terran Fleet. Threx stood slowly from his throne, his claws gripping the armrests. How many? Still counting, Commander. 8, 9, 10 separate fleet groups. Multiple carrier groups. Battleship divisions. Destroyer screens. The tactical officer's voice had gone quiet. Final count, 1,247 vessels. That's impossible, Threx whispered, but the display didn't lie. The Terran fleets had arranged themselves in a sphere around Kepler Station and the Zarkothian forces, not threatening, not aggressive, just present. Each ship maintained perfect position, their formations suggesting a level of coordination that made Threx's tactical instincts scream warnings. General Crix's image flickered. Commander, we're seeing the same readings. Where did they come from? I don't. Threx pulled up star charts, shipping lane data, intelligence reports. We had no indication they possessed this many military vessels. Our intelligence said your intelligence was incomplete. Admiral Okonkwo's voice cut through the bridge. She'd opened another channel, her face now appearing on every screen in the Zarkothian fleet. May I explain? Asterisk the revelation, Admiral. Sarah Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, surrounded by her command crew. Behind her, through the viewport, the vast Terran armada hung against the stars, a sight that hadn't been seen in 70 years of human spaceflight. Commander Threx, General Crix, and all members of the Zarkothian Confederation currently in the Kepler system. I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about humanity, and I'd like to address it before your deadline expires. She gestured to someone off-screen, and the display changed. Historical footage appeared, humanity's first contact with alien life, 73 years ago. The joyous celebrations, the diplomatic missions, the opening of trade routes. When we reached the stars and found we weren't alone, it was the greatest moment in human history, Okonkwo continued. We'd spent millennia fighting each other, and suddenly we had neighbors, friends, partners in the galaxy. It changed everything about how we saw ourselves. New images appeared. Human colonies, trading stations, diplomatic corps facilities. We decided, collectively, that we would be different. That we wouldn't make the same mistakes in space that we'd made on Earth. We would be traders, diplomats, bridge builders. We would seek peaceful solutions first, second, and third. Her expression softened. And we meant it. Every word. Threx found his voice. Then explain your fleet, Admiral. Explain where you hid over 1,000 warships while pretending to be peaceful. We didn't hide them, Commander. We built them. The display changed again, showing massive shipyards orbiting Mars, Luna, and Titan. After first contact, every human government asked the same question. What if someone out here isn't peaceful? What if someone sees our desire for harmony as weakness? Construction footage rolled across the screen's vast orbital facilities, automated assembly lines, ships taking shape in the darkness of space. So we made a choice. We would pursue peace with every diplomatic tool we possessed. We would negotiate, compromise, and build relationships based on mutual respect. But we would never be helpless. Okonkwo's voice hardened slightly. We spent 7 decades building a defense fleet. Not to conquer. Not to expand. just to ensure that our choice to be peaceful was always exactly that, a choice. Threx watched the footage of Terran shipyards, each one capable of producing dozens of vessels simultaneously. The scale was staggering. It must have required a significant portion of humanity's industrial capacity for decades. Every human colony contributes to fleet maintenance, Okonkwo continued. Every member of the Terran Council understands that our diplomatic corps can only function if backed by overwhelming force we hope to never use. We smile, Commander Threx, because we have the luxury of choosing peace. Because we know that if diplomacy fails, we have alternatives. She stepped closer to the camera, her smile finally fading. You encountered Ambassador Chun. He smiled and negotiated and asked politely for you to reconsider. You thought that made him weak. But here's what you didn't understand. He smiled because he knew what was coming. Because he'd already sent the authorization codes to mobilize 12 Terran fleets before he even spoke to you. 12 fleets, Threx repeated numbly. We have 37 total, Okonkwo said quietly, spread across human space, ready to respond to any threat within hours. You're looking at roughly 1/3 of our defensive capability. The rest remain on station, protecting our people, just in case this situation escalates beyond Kepler. General Crix's image flickered with what might have been disbelief. You built this in secret. Intelligence networks across the galaxy should have. We didn't build it in secret. We built it openly, in plain sight of anyone who bothered to look. Okonkwo's smile returned, sad now. But no one looked. You saw our merchant ships and our diplomats and decided you knew everything about us. You saw that we preferred peace and assumed we were incapable of war. You mistook patience for weakness, Commander. She checked her chronometer. You have 14 minutes remaining. I'm offering you one final opportunity to withdraw peacefully. Take your fleet beyond the system boundary, restore Kepler Station's neutral status, and release the distant horizon with its crew and civilians unharmed. Do this, and we'll consider this an unfortunate misunderstanding. And if we refuse? Threx asked, though he already knew his position had become untenable. Then you'll learn exactly why we smile, Commander. Okonkwo's expression was almost gentle. Because it's so much easier to be kind when you know you could choose otherwise. 14 minutes. I really do hope you make the right decision. The transmission ended, leaving Threx staring at his tactical display. 100 Zarkothian vessels, surrounded by over 1,200 Terran ships. The mathematics had shifted dramatically. Commander, we should withdraw, his second-in-command urged. We're outnumbered 12-1. This is no longer a winnable engagement. But Threx was thinking about his superiors, about the War Council's expectations, about Zarkothian pride and the precedent this would set. To retreat now would be to admit that humans, the galaxy's traders and diplomats, had outmaneuvered them. Broadcast to the Confederation High Command, he ordered. Request strategic guidance. Let them make this decision. The response came in 8 minutes. The High Command's directive was brief and left no room for interpretation. Maintain position. Confederation forces do not retreat. If the humans fire first, respond with overwhelming force. Otherwise, call their bluff. They built a fleet to intimidate, not to use. Threx read the orders 3 times, his blood running cold. The High Command was light years away, making decisions based on pride and politics, not tactical reality. They hadn't seen the Terran formations, the precision, the quiet confidence of Admiral Okonkwo. But orders were orders. All ships maintain blockade formation, Threx commanded, his voice heavy. Charge weapons to full power. If the humans want Kepler Station, they'll have to take it by force. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Okonkwo watched the countdown reach 0. The Zarkothian fleet hadn't moved. Weapon systems were charging across all enemy vessels. "Admiral, they're not withdrawing," her XO reported. "No," Okonkwo said softly. "They're not? Orders, ma'am?" She thought about the civilians on the distant horizon, about Kepler Station's residents, about the message this would send across the galaxy that humanity's diplomatic overtures could be ignored, that peaceful peoples could be bullied, that kindness was weakness. Transmit final warning. All Terran fleets, prepare for combat operations. Rules of engagement. Disable, not destroy. Minimum necessary force. We're not here to commit genocide. We're here to make a point. The COM officer's hands moved across our console. Warning transmitted, Admiral. 10 seconds past .20.30. The Zarkothian fleet held position. Ma'am, we're detecting weapons lock. The Talon of Supremacy is targeting the destroyer Vigilant. Okonkwo's jaw tightened. Evasive. The railgun shot crossed the void at a fraction of light speed, too fast for evasion. It struck the Vigilant's shields, sending cascades of energy rippling across the destroyer's defensive field. In that moment, everything changed. All fleets, Admiral Okonkwo said, her voice cutting through the bridge like a blade. Weapons free. Execute Protocol Mercy. The Terran Armada moved as one. Asterisk. The demonstration, what happened next, would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The Terran fleets didn't charge forward in the traditional assault. Instead, they executed a maneuver that combined overwhelming coordination with surgical precision. 1,200 ships moving in perfect synchronization. Each vessel knowing exactly where every other ship would be at every microsecond. Engaging point defense grid, reported the tactical officer aboard the Indomitable. Destroyer screen advancing. Capital ships providing fire support. Commander Threx watched in growing horror as the Terran formation flowed around his fleet like water around stones. Destroyers darted between Zarkothian vessels, their railguns targeting specific systems, engines, weapons arrays, sensor clusters. The shots were precise, calculated to disable rather than destroy. Return fire. Threx roared. All vessels, engage at will. The Zarkothian fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, kinetic weapons, a storm of firepower that should have torn through the advancing Terran ships. But the humans had positioned their fleet in overlapping defensive layers. Each destroyer operated under the protective umbrella of cruiser point defense systems, which in turn were covered by battleship-grade shields. Target the flagship, Threx commanded, directing his weapons toward the Indomitable. 100 Zarkothian vessels focused their fire on Admiral Okonkwo's command ship. The barrage was devastating, enough firepower to crack a moon. The Indomitable's shields blazed white-hot as they absorbed the assault and held. Shield integrity at 72%, the defensive systems officer reported calmly. Redistributing power from secondary systems. Shields holding. Okonkwo never took her eyes off the tactical display. Carrier groups Theta and Sigma. Launch strike craft. Target Zarkothian propulsion systems. Heavy cruisers first. Battleship division. Focus firing solution on the Dreadnought's engines only. The order rippled through the fleet. Hundreds of small strike craft launched from carrier vessels, swarming toward the Zarkothian capital ships like angry insects. Each craft carried specialized disruption weapons designed to overload ship. Systems without causing catastrophic damage. The Zarkothian dreadnought Eternal Dominance took the brunt of a coordinated strike from 3 Terran battleships. Massive railgun slugs, moving at 0.03% light speed, slammed into its engine clusters with mathematical precision. The dreadnought's propulsion systems failed in cascading sequence, leaving the massive vessel adrift and tumbling. Asterisk. Not destroyed, disabled. Eternal dominance is out of action, General Crix reported from his command ship, his voice tight with disbelief. They took out a dreadnought in 40 seconds. All vessels, fall back to defensive, Threx began. But his order was cut short as the talon of supremacy shuddered violently. Direct hits starboard engines. His tactical officer reported. Multiple systems failing. We're losing maneuvering capability. Threx pulled up the damage reports. The Terran destroyers had struck with impossible accuracy, targeting the Talon's engine array with a precision that suggested intimate knowledge of Zarkothian ship design. They'd known exactly where to hit to disable without destroying. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Terran ships danced through the Zarkothian formation, their movements coordinated by quantum communication networks that eliminated all lag time. Every captain knew where every other ship would be, allowing for maneuvers that seemed almost telepathic in their synchronization. The Zarkothian fleet, for all its ferocity, fought as individual vessels. The Terran armada fought as a single organism. "Ma'am, enemy casualties?" Okonkwo asked 20 minutes into the engagement. 17 Zarkothian vessels disabled and adrift. 34 with heavy damage to propulsion or weapon systems. 22 in fighting retreat. A pause. Enemy fatalities, estimated 412 across all vessels. Most from decompression incidents when they failed to secure damaged sections. 400 dead out of a fleet of 100 ships crewed by thousands. The Terrans were being careful, even in the chaos of battle. Our casualties? Destroyer Vigilant took moderate damage from the initial attack. 16 wounded, none critical. Cruiser Defiance reports minor shield damage. Otherwise, no significant casualties across the fleet, Admiral. Okonkwo allowed herself a small breath of relief. Maintain pressure. I want their fleet completely immobilized within the next 30 minutes. No unnecessary risks. The battle, if it could even be called that, continued with mechanical efficiency. The Zarkothian ships were simply outmatched, not in firepower, but in coordination, precision, and technological superiority. Terran weapons were designed with one purpose: to stop threats while minimizing casualties. Every system had been engineered around the principle that war, when necessary, should be decisive but not genocidal. General Crix's flagship took a concentrated barrage from a Terran carrier group. His shields collapsed, his weapon systems failed, and emergency lighting flickered across his bridge. Through his viewport, he could see Zarkothian vessels drifting in space, their crews alive but helpless. We can't win this," he said aloud, the words tasting like ash. Commander Threx sat in his darkened bridge, the talon of supremacy spinning slowly, its engines dead. Around him, his crew worked frantically to restore basic systems, but the Terran strike had been too precise. They'd need days of repairs in a shipyard to become combat-capable again. He activated the emergency comm channel. "All Confederation vessels, this is Commander Threx. Cease fire. Cease fire and stand down. We. We cannot continue this engagement." The fighting sputtered out over the next 10 minutes as Zarkothian ships, one by one, powered down their weapons and broadcast surrender signals. The Terran Fleet maintained their positions, weapons still active, but no longer firing. 47 minutes after the first shot was fired, the Battle of Kepler Station was over. Admiral Okonkwo surveyed the aftermath. The Zarkothian fleet hung in space, most vessels disabled, none destroyed. A few had managed to retreat to the system's edge, but they showed no signs of returning. Fleet-wide, stand down to alert status. Maintain defensive positions. She turned to her communications officer. "Get me Commander Threx." The Zarkothian's face appeared on screen, and Okonkwo was struck by how different he looked. The predatory confidence was gone, replaced by something that looked like shock. "Commander," she said quietly, I'm authorizing medical and engineering teams to assist your disabled vessels. We'll provide life support and emergency repairs. Your wounded will receive the same care as our own. Threx stared at her. You're helping us? We're not monsters, Commander. We never were. We're just very, very good at defending ourselves when pushed. She leaned forward. The distant horizon is free to depart. Kepler Station's neutral status is restored. Your fleet is alive and will remain that way. This doesn't have to escalate further. What do you want from us? I want you to go home, Okonkwo said simply. I want you to tell your high command what happened here. I want them to understand that humanity's smile isn't a weakness. It's a gift. It means we've chosen not to do what we're capable of doing. She gestured to the tactical display, where Terran Fleet still surrounded the Zarkothian vessels. We could have destroyed your fleet in the first 10 minutes. We have weapons you didn't see today, things we hope we'll never need to use. Instead, we disabled you, and now we're going to help you get home safely. Her smile returned, but it was tired now. Because that's who we are. Even when you force us to fight, we try to minimize the harm. Threx was silent for a long moment. The High Command will not accept this defeat easily. Then I hope you'll help them understand that it doesn't have to be a defeat. It can be a beginning. Okongwo's expression softened. We're offering peace, Commander. Real peace, backed by the certainty that neither side benefits from war. Your civilization is proud and strong. We respect that. But strength doesn't require domination. It can coexist with cooperation. You truly believe this? I know it, because that's what humanity chose 70 years ago, and it's worked. We're not asking the Zarkothian Confederation to become weak. We're asking you to be strong enough to choose peace. Asterisk epilogue. The new Galactic Order 3 weeks later. Ambassador Michael Chun stood before the Galactic Council. In the Grand Chamber on Neutral Station Prime, representatives from 47 species watched as the holographic display showed. Footage from the Battle of Kepler Station. What you're seeing, Chun explained, his voice carrying through the chamber, is the reality that humanity hoped we'd never have to reveal. We built a fleet capable of defending our interests, and we prayed we'd never use it. The Zarkothian delegate, General Crix himself, stood at his podium. The scars of battle were still visible. He walked with a pronounced limp, and one arm was in a regeneration sleeve. But he'd insisted on attending personally. The Zarkothian Confederation acknowledges our ... miscalculation regarding humanity, Crix said, his voice carrying the weight of humility earned through defeat. We saw diplomacy and assumed cowardice. We saw patience and assumed weakness. We were wrong. He activated his own display, showing Zarkothian internal assessments of Terran military capability, revised significantly upward. Humanity possesses the most advanced defensive fleet in known space. They could have annihilated our forces at Kepler Station. Instead, they disabled us and then provided medical assistance. Crix's eyes found Chun across the chamber. They fought with one hand and extended the other. That is a kind of strength the Confederation did not understand. We understand it now. Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. Several species looked uncomfortable. How many had made similar assumptions about humanity? How many had seen the traders and diplomats and missed the fleet waiting in the shadows? Chun continued. We're not revealing this to threaten anyone. We're revealing it to be honest. Humanity prefers peace. We will negotiate, compromise, and seek diplomatic solutions to every conflict. But we will not be victims. We will not allow our people to be threatened, our territory to be seized, or our citizens to be harmed. He pulled up star charts showing the distribution of Terran fleets across human space. 37 fleet groups strategically positioned, not for conquest. Not for expansion. For protection. We built all this hoping we'd never need it. A delegate from the Krillian assembly stood. And what assurances do we have that this fleet won't be used for aggression? That humanity won't follow the path of other powerful species? You have 70 years of history, Chun replied. 7 decades of peaceful expansion, diplomatic resolution, and cooperation. We've had the capability to conquer dozens of systems. Instead, we traded with them. We've had the power to dominate disputes. Instead, we mediated them. He smiled, that same gentle smile that Threx had so badly misunderstood. We're not asking you to trust our words. We're asking you to look at our actions. The Krillian delegates settled back, apparently satisfied. General Crix spoke again. The Zarkothian Confederation has signed a mutual defense and non-aggression pact with the Terran Council. We've opened diplomatic channels, established trade agreements, and committed to peaceful resolution of future disputes. He paused. We tested humanity's patience. They responded with exactly enough force to make their point, and no more. That is the behavior of a civilization we can respect. The council session continued for hours, but the message was clear. Humanity had revealed itself fully not as conquerors, but as a people who chose peace while maintaining the ability to defend that choice. 1 year later, Captain Elena Vasquez piloted the distant horizon through the Kepler system, now bustling with trade from 6 species. The neutral station had been expanded, reinforced, and was thriving under joint administration that included human, Zarkothian, and Krillian representatives. Captain, we're receiving standard approach clearance, Lieutenant Park reported. Station control sounds positively friendly. Elena smiled. Things change. Through the viewport, she could see a Terran patrol cruiser on Station Just 1, but its presence was a reminder. A reminder that humanity smiled because they could afford to. That diplomacy was backed by strength. That peace was a choice, not a weakness. Her cone chimed with a personal message. She pulled it up and laughed. It was from Ambassador Chun, forwarding a news article. The headline read, Zarkothian Military Academy revises strategic doctrine, understanding human diplomacy. Chun had added a single line, still smiling. Hope we keep it that way. Elena looked out at the peaceful station, at the ships from dozens of worlds trading and interacting without conflict, at the future humanity had fought so carefully to preserve. Me too, she whispered to the stars. Me too.